Thank you, Dev, for that introduction. And thank you, everyone, for being here. So I'm going to read the first two sections of a story from a collection that I'm working on. And as you might guess from Dev's introduction, it features bikes. It's kind of like Where's Waldo, except with bicycles instead of a tall man with glasses. This one's called Recovery. I'm staying with Chris because I punched Tommy. Tommy was my friend and my roommate, and I punched him while I slept, and I punched his dog while it barked. After that, I didn't have a friend, or a home, or 3 jobs cooking shitty bar food, so I opened my closet and loaded up the Volvo. I grabbed whatever was in front of me, filling my arms with flannels and jackets in the middle of summer. Instinctively, I took the on-ramp to go north on the expressway. The Volvo did 0 to 60 in like a minute and a half. My muffler and the entirety of my winter wardrobe were in the back seat. When I could finally take my foot off the gas, finally think over the sound of the engine, I realized what I had left behind. There was my old phone with my pictures of Amy on it. There was my passport, which I need to get into bars because my driver's license expired. Most importantly, I forgot my keys to the apartment, which were on the same carabiner as the key to Amy's apartment and the key to my parents' house. In my rear view, the city's skyline twinkled in the dark. It was 4 in the morning, and I kept driving until I hit the exit for my parents' neighborhood. They live in one of those Chicago suburbs where the houses look like grown-up versions of trailer homes. The streets are wider than they need to be, and everyone's got at least one car with a bear sticker on it. I considered knocking on their door, but immediately decided against it. My old elementary school was a couple miles away, and I still remember the streets my bus used to take to get to it. I followed the route and parked in the lot, reclined my seat, and tried to sleep until the sun rose. The teachers started pulling in, and they looked at me like I was going to touch myself or kill them, or maybe do both at the same time. I needed somewhere else to go, and even though I really didn't want to, I called Chris. I drove back to the city, and I've been staying with Chris for a few days now. His apartment is totally disgusting, but he's got an old mattress in his kitchen that he was too lazy to drive to the dumpster. In the mornings, he puts on his tie and heads to the cell phone store, and then I have a place to myself. I rummage through the dirty clothes on his floor, find his laptop, and try to put it back exactly where I found it when I'm done. He may or may not know that I've been traipsing through his room, stalking my ex-girlfriend on his computer, moisturizing my hands with this use ring. Chris and I met through music, but really we met through the internet when I posted an ad on the message board. I've known him for almost 4 years, and at least since high school it's the longest friendship I've had. This is something that gives people pause, this lack of long-term friends, so like many things, I keep it a secret. But there's no denying that the history of my life is a timeline of self-imposed failure. It's followed me to the present, propelling me to the point where currently I'm crashing with Chris in his nasty apartment. Currently, I'm sprawled on his compacted and sweat-stained mattress in the middle of the kitchen. I have a sheet that I'm attempting to lie both on top of and beneath at the same time. It's like a taco shell, and I'm the lettuce and beans. The ceiling fan is wobbling above me, and Chris has just emerged from his bedroom. He's cooking his breakfast and telling me that the fan won't fall, but his logic is all wrong. It's been wobbling like that forever, he says. But the longer it wobbles, I say, the closer it is to falling. Chris is wearing a robe because he finds pants too constricting when he eats. It's red and has pockets over the hips where he keeps his cigarettes and a lighter. He steps over me on his way to the fridge, and I avert my eyes because I don't know what he's wearing underneath. I see what you're saying, he says, but the fan just wobbles. But do you see what I'm saying? I see what you're saying. I'm going to move the mattress, I say. Your destiny is in your hands. He pulls out a carton of eggs and steps over me to get back to the stove. He turns on the burner, gooses the flame, and drops a slab of butter into the pan. The butter starts smoking as he pushes it around with a fork. You need to stop worrying about the small things, he says, cracking some eggs into a bowl. Fans, feuds with roommates. You need to start thinking big, start thinking potential, actualization. Yes, you're sleeping on my kitchen floor and you haven't changed your shirt since you got here. But you and me, we're talented individuals. We have tons of ability, but we're being defined by all the things we don't want to define us. It's like we're wearing sweaters and we just rolled around in a leaf pile. What we need is some momentum, some velocity. We need to get on our bikes and ride at such a speed that the wind will blow the leaves from the wool. I drape my arms over my eyes because conversations like this make me want to shove Chris in the oven. Him and me, we're not the type to achieve a velocity to blow the leaves from our sweaters. For one, I don't have a bike. For two, neither one of us made it through more than a year of our respective community colleges. We met because we wanted to be musicians, but all our songs sounded like shitty covers of My Bloody Valentine, and no one besides our drummer's girlfriend came to our shows. We're shit peas in a shit pod, and when we go out, the bartender sometimes gives Chris my tab and Chris his tab to me. We're both not tall and not short. Our hairstyles draw comparisons to Prince Valiant's medieval bob cut. We wear cut-off jean shorts and random shirts from the thrift store that are usually yellow. I'm aware of all these things if Chris isn't, and this is basically what he needs to know. I try to tell him in terms he might understand. Chris, I say, we're birds of a feather, a flock of two. We can't even make a triangle to reduce wind resistance, and that's why we're so slow. We could fly single file, but who would lead? Neither one of us is leadership material. He pours his eggs into the pan and they hiss as they hit the Teflon. I have many leadership qualities, he says. Who do you lead, I ask. I lead myself, and that's all that matters. He drops 2 slices of white bread into the toaster and butters them when they pop. He pokes at the eggs with a spatula, turns off the burner and scrapes them onto a plate. With the eggs salted and peppered, he pours a glass of orange juice and sits down. It's a healthy breakfast, but one you'd make if you had never made one before. As he takes unnecessarily loud bites of toast, I start thinking about Tommy burning all my stuff in the alley behind the apartment. I imagine him dousing all my worldly possessions in lighter fluid, dropping a match. I start piecing together a recovery plan. 1, I'm going to need a can of pepper spray because Tommy's dog is terrifying. The pit bull Cane Corso mix, rescued. The only reason it didn't tear into my throat the other night is because I snorted half a gram of coke and was listening to Swedish death metal and was afraid of nothing. 2, unless I can get a spare key from the landlord, I'll need to enter by force. The front door has 2 deadbolts, but the back door only has 1. It opens onto an alley where Polish construction workers cut 2x4s and copper pipes. I could try to kick it in, but a better option would be a sawzall. Cut around the knob and the deadbolt, give the door a nudge, enter and recover. Chris keeps crunching on his toast and he takes a gulp of orange juice that's so big it makes him breathe hard. The fan keeps spinning on the ceiling and I visualize where it would land if it fell. The little square table where Chris is sitting would get hit. And like an idiot, he's on the side where he'd get clonked too. The mattress is mostly out of the way, but my feet are probably still in the danger zone. I cross my legs and stretch them beside the wall. Don't you have work today, I ask? Mental health day, he says. I'm getting my life together. Chris has a talent for bullshitting that surpasses all his other talents combined. He tells people he's a musician even though we haven't played in a year, convinces them he's read all the fancy authors he's only looked up on Wikipedia. He's so good at bullshitting that he's also really good at selling cell phone plans, and at convincing his boss that he's just not feeling the magic and doesn't want to bring negative energy into the store. When he finishes his breakfast, he stacks his plate on a pile of dishes that nearly reaches the faucet in the sink. He locks himself in his room, and as I listen to the water trickle from one dirty plate to the next, I smell him smoking. A couple hours later, he emerges to pee. He's still in his eating robe, and I'm still on the mattress. Time to get going, he says. Where are you going, I ask. It's not a physical going. $20 says you don't make it farther than the couch. He brushes his teeth in the doorway of the bathroom, spits and drinks from the faucet to rinse. He goes back to his room, and I watch the fan wobble and think about Tommy again. I make a mental note to check the alley for cinders before sawing through the door. Chris and I spend the day watching the local news. We sit on the couch that has 2 Sharpied lines beneath the cushions for the number of girls Chris has slept with on it. He hogs his computer. When I ask him what he's looking at, he shows me a picture of herpes. Chris lives in a shitty neighborhood. With the money he makes in commission at the cell phone store, he can afford an apartment all to himself. It allows him to be as filthy as he wants to be, and the floor in the living room is covered with books he hasn't read past page 10. The covers are dotted with dried marinara sauce and they make vacuuming impossible. The kitchen floor has so many crumbs that when Chris and I finally get moving, I have to brush off my feet before putting on my shoes. For dinner, we get jumbo slices of pizza and Chris buys a 6-pack of High Life on the way home. We eat, and once we're full and little buzz that drive us to the right liquors on Division. It's a scummy bar/liquor store, as well as a site of memorable moments in my life, like the time I bought an 8-ball of rock salt and got a blowjob from my friend's sister. The bartender doesn't like me, but he knows me and he doesn't check my ID. Chris and I start drinking and I watch him plow through one High Life after another. I'm not feeling great, so I can take it kind of easy, but Chris is going through them pretty fast and he's beating me 2-1. He tells me to cheer up. He offers to buy a round. I'm watching him because I know that always, inevitably, he reaches a point of intoxication where his filter shuts down and things get weird. He'll scrunch his face at me, and instead of a torrent of bullshit spewing from his mouth, he'll say something deeply upsetting in the form of a question. How come you don't go to funerals, he might ask. So now, when I look over and see him make a face like he just dislodged some nasty speck of food in his teeth, I know it's that time. Whatever happened with Amy, he asks, making it sound like it's something he's just curious about. I swivel my bar stool in the opposite direction because Chris knows exactly what happened with Amy. We dated for maybe 5 months, but then I started thinking about how I once had a scholarship to go to a college that, albeit was a community college, but I still failed out. I started thinking about how Amy was beautiful and she had a scholarship to Paineston, Michigan for a master's degree, and I knew she wasn't going to fuck it up like I did. She said she saw something good in me, kept saying it's there, I know it is. But the only good I see in myself was the honesty to admit that I'm the total dirtbag that I am. I have good enough taste not to like myself, but that isn't redeeming if you think about it. It was only a matter of time before Amy figured all this out, so I figured it out for her. Why do you always sabotage yourself, Chris asks, scrunching his face again. Chris is a total dirtbag, but he's smart. He knows all this stuff about Amy, but all he actually knows is that I blended the chick from Starbucks. Come on, he says, actualize. I peel the label off my old style. I figure if I just wait a few minutes, Chris will forget he's talking to me and start nodding off over his bottle. He does this so reliably that he's chipped both his front teeth, and I'm sure one day he'll actually lose them. On the other side of Chris, I see a curveball coming. The girl squeezes in between bar stools and raises her hand to get the bartender's attention. She's wearing sandals and a long, flowy dress, and it's clear she's in the wrong place. She asks for a cocktail menu, and the bartender tells her they have vodka, gin, and whiskey. She ponders the options, and Chris swivels to face her. The bartender leaves to let her think, and Chris leans in close. Do you like music, he asks, his words slurring so the sentence takes twice as long as it should. I know exactly where things are going, and I hop down from my stool and jump ship. I flip through the jukebox, watch two well-known drug dealers play a game of pool. They play the winner and lose. Cases of mistaken identity have been an issue in the past, and what I've learned from Chris is that if you're going to be friends with an erratic and maladjusted individual, choose one who doesn't look like you. I intentionally lose track of him, but sure enough, when I step outside for a smoke, I'm not more than 3 drags into my parliament when some frat boy in an Iowa shirt heads straight for me. His face is all tight, and it's clear he doesn't want to bum a cigarette. Wrong guy, I shout, but he tackles me, and I hold him close so he can't do too much damage. He yells something, and the girl from the other side of Chris is there, screaming at him to stop. The guy's got his knee in my stomach, and I know he's going to start swinging, but just then Chris stumbles out of the bar and sees us on the ground. The girl realizes her mistake, and she pulls the frat boy off me and directs him to Chris. He pushes Chris, and Chris just falls over, and it's pitiful, like when someone crouches behind you on the playground and their buddy puts a shoulder to your chest. Who knows what Chris said to the girl, where he touched her, but it was vile enough to deserve a tackling. Chris is blinking like he just stepped out of a movie theater on a bright day, and my shirt is torn and elbow bleeding. Chris and I are both on our butts, and the tackler hails the cab, and I get up and shout through the window that he'd better pray there aren't any stop signs. I keep banging on the glass until Chris says something that makes me stop. 3 nights and you've already done it, he says. I turn around and see him there on the sidewalk. His legs are splayed in front of him, and a strand of hair is pasted to his cheek. I'm finally at your level, he shouts. It was the most upsetting part about the whole incident. Thank you. I'm going to invite Kyle Munch back up to the podium to introduce Nicole Ricks.